Good morning, guys. Welcome to Power Up 365. How are you guys doing this morning? How is your financial position? What are you doing with your money? That's what I want to speak about today. Yesterday, I follow a lot the American politics on this bailout, on what they're going to do with all this money, and I see how it affects the countries of my trainees and obviously where we're living in South Africa. So a lot of times you see that there's a government spending bill that's going to be passed by Congress, okay, and I think yesterday it was about 1.5 trillion for infrastructure that was passed in America. In South Africa, we've had bills passed to build power station plants. We have a budget that every year that the minister speaks on, that the president speaks on what's going to happen with the money. But I want to speak a bit about that, but I want to speak about your finances. So I want to start with this example, okay? I went and I looked today again, and I looked at brown bread at 13 Rand 99, 2 liter milk at 29 Rand 99, and toilet rolls at 54 Rand gives you 97 Rand 98 Rand. Okay, that is how much money these three objects. Now, I think those are very, very important. Okay, bread is a lot of people in the world eat bread every day in order to stay full. Not that it's the best thing to eat. We are all guilty of that. But some milk. People have milk in their porridge, in their coffee. I think it's very important. And toilet rolls, that speaks for itself. So 97 Rand 98 Rand. So 97 Rand 98 cents. So let's just say you had this 100 Rand note, right? You had this 100 Rand note. Okay? Here is your 100 Rand note. Now every single day you've got to spend money or every few days to buy this stuff. Now what is going to happen with your finances? What is going to happen with your finances? So people believe that the point I'm going to get to is that you've got to do something with your life and you've got to make your money work. But I want to prove the point. I want to prove the point to you. Okay. So number one is 100 Rand. Now you could have a few choices. You could go and take this 100 Rand, buy these things and spend this 100 Rand. But in a few days' time, you're going to need another 100 Rand. Okay? So how do you get these 100 Rands? So there are a few ways you can get it. So number one, you can go get a job. You can have a business. Okay? And you can make investments. Okay? So you're either going to go and work, give your skill set for a certain amount of time, and then you're going to, they're going to pay you, you're going to get money from the job, you're going to go give you 100 Rand and you're going to buy these things. You're going to build a business, which I believe everyone has a business, everyone should be in business, in some sort of business, or you're going to go do investments. You're going to go and buy a property, they're going to give you rent, you're going to go buy some bitcoins like most people are doing, you're going to go buy some shares, you're going to go invest in a business. But these are the three key ways that you are going to make money, and now you're going to use this money to buy these things. Now, people believe in saving money. People believe in saving money. I do not agree in saving money. I believe in storing money. I store it for when the opportunity comes, I can take it. That's what I do. I don't believe in saving. I will never become wealthy on saving money. Okay? If I put all my money to save, I will never become wealthy. I do not believe in that. Because, let's just say, you are working for a job, you get 800 Rand, you get 100 Rand, you go and you put this 100 Rand in a jar. Okay? You put this 100 Rand in this jar. Okay? And you deposit this 100 Rand on the 1st of March 2020. Okay? And then you come on the 28th of February 2021 to come and get the 100 Rand. So first of all, there's a few ways you can save it. You can go save it in a jar, and this jar, right, there will still be 100 Rand. Obviously, there's risk if someone breaks in, if someone steals it, if it gets lost, if you forget where the jar is. But the 100 Rand doesn't become more. The 100 Rand doesn't become more, okay? You could go put this in a bank. You could go put this in a bank, and maybe the 100 Rand with interest, let's just say they're going to give you 3 to 4 to 5%, but just so they give you 5%, right? They give you 5%, which is quite high now. And that means the 100 Rand becomes 105 Rand. So the big question is, this thing called inflation, in 1 year's time, in 12 months' time, if I go and buy these things, do you think I can buy the same products in 1 year's time, in 12 months' time, for 105 Rand? I'm going to tell you, you can't. So that means inflation, the amount that this price goes up, that's called inflation. So if this thing goes from 97 Rand or whatever to 105 Rand, okay, that means there was an inflation of 100 Rand, let's just say, okay? Because I was using different figures here, but I'm just using 100 Rand as an example. So can you beat inflation with storing money? Can you beat inflation by storing money? Now, saving money. I like using the word stored for an opportunity. So I can store my money in a bank, I store it, but it's not there to make the 5 Rand. I'm just keeping it there so one day when an opportunity comes, that I can go and take up the opportunity. Okay? So clearly, we cannot beat inflation with the interest rates. Okay? And what do you think the bank's model is? The bank's model is they borrow to you at 11%. So they take your money, right? They give you 5%, and they give it to someone else at 11%, and they are making margins. That's how the bank makes money. They have got a 5, 6, 10% margin. But where people don't get it is, what about the administration fee? What about the valuation fee? What about the bank charges every single month? So yes, you've got interest. They're in the business of borrowing out money, but there's so much. You must have a check account. Which check account you're going to have? What are your bank fees, interest fees, administration fees, letter of credit, valuation, all administration. There's so much fees when it comes to banking. So don't be fooled that you're just paying the interest on a bank loan. So now, this is called inflation. So let me go back why I mentioned that government is borrowing money. So if you think now, for example, something that's lately now, the government of America borrowed $1.5 trillion, not billion, trillion dollars. How did they borrow that? How did they do that? They went to a computer and they said the government is raising 1.5 trillion for infrastructure. What they're actually doing now is they are promising, they are raising money, and the government is standing as surety for that money. They're actually saying, we promise we will pay this 1.5 trillion. The Reserve Bank must give us 1.5 trillion. They're going to issue bonds out, but all that means is the government promises. So a lot of times you hear governments going bankrupt, okay, because they printed money, and these days it's not really printing, it's just digits on a computer. So they're printing money, okay, and they are promising that they can pay that money back. The more money they print, the more it's available. The more it is available, the less power it has. The less power it has. It's called supply and demand. It's called supply and demand. The more they print, the more power the money has. Okay? Sorry, the less they print, the more scarce the money is, the more scarce the dollar is, the more value it is. The more scarce the rand is, the more value it is. There are three things that determine the power of the currency, and that is inflation, which I just explained to you, interest rates, what the banks are giving, and exchange rates. Those are the three things. So governments, the Reserve Bank, the Treasury is always trying to, or the Minister of Finance is always trying to balance that. So what happens if the currency is getting too weak? They lift up interest rates. They lift up interest rates because now if you were paying a bond, if you were paying a monthly bond of 10,000 Rand and they lift up interest rates, and your now bond is 10,500, and that means you have just lost 500 to go and spend it in the economy. That means there's more scarcity of your money. That means it goes up in value. Okay? When you want people to stimulate the economy, that's why all countries during COVID decreased the interest rates. They decrease them so people have got more money in their pockets so they can go out and buy more things. And the more spending there is in the economy, that's how you stimulate it. But this is the thing. This 1.5 trillion, or whichever country you are living in, you're listening to this, your government has borrowed money to do certain projects in the country. But that money that they have borrowed is a promissory note. The government says, I will pay this money back. Okay? How will they pay this money back? So when a government borrows money, right, it's a promissory note. Because in the old days, governments used to be backed up by gold. So they used to say, I want to print $1.5 trillion. I better have 1.5 trillion in reserves of gold. But in 1974, Nixon changed that. He changed that. Now, there is no gold reserves. There is no asset backing up currency. Okay? That's why it's this whole argument of Bitcoin. There is no currency backing up. There's nothing backing up Bitcoin, but then people are saying, but what is backing up the dollar? What is backing? It's a promissory note. It's a government that's behind it, okay? So obviously the American government, the American taxes are much stronger than other countries, so they have got much more backing to print money, okay? But all what it is the government promising they're going to pay that back. What is the government's source of income? What is the government's source of income? The government's source of income is called taxes. Okay? So when the government goes and borrows money, especially from other countries, or if they borrow money from the World Bank and all that, they get charged interest. The Reserve Bank also charges an interest for money going into the market. There are government bonds also. Government bonds charge interest, right? So there is a premium, a small premium that government has to pay. But forget that for now. How are they going to pay the 1.5 trillion? They are going to go and put spending. They're going to go build some roads. They're going to go build some hospitals. They are going to go and give money out to people that can't afford money, education, healthcare, wherever they're going to decide to spend that money. That's why it's so important for politicians to make business sense on how they're going to spend this money. And that's why when money is stolen out of a country through corruption, a country country suffers so much. Not only is the money gone and that road or that toilet or that university or that education was not built, that was meant to create infrastructure for people, because the government's job is to look after people. Not only is that not being built because the money has been stolen, but what is happening is the government still has to pay that money back. And who pays that back? It is the people. It is the people who pay this money back through paying taxes. Who is the biggest taxpayer there is? People always say it's the rich pay the most amount of tax, but percentage-wise, the middle class pays the highest percentage of tax. So the rich might say, yes, I paid 10,000 Rand tax, but he might have made 100,000 Rand, where the middle class might have paid 5,000 tax, but he only earned 20,000 Rand. So percentage-wise, the middle class always pays more tax. Okay, the rich pay the least tax as a percentage-wise, but as a value, they pay the most tax. Okay, and so what is happening is not the 100 Rand you earn through a job, business, and investments. The government is taking taxes. What are taxes? Well, there are taxes on petrol. There is a VAT tax. There is an income tax. Now, an income tax can come from 18 to 45%. That means, depending on how much you earn, there will be a higher tax bracket, but a company and investments, which usually must be in companies, is at 28% tax. So that means the most people, when they earn 100 Rand at least, okay, depending on their bracket where they are, but let's just say for company tax, 28% of that is going to the tax man. So let's just say you make 100 Rand, 28 Rand has to go for income tax. And 15 Rand, if there's VAT in the country, has to go to the VAT man. Okay? So the taxes that you are actually paying on this 100 Rand, where now you think you're storing 100 Rand, but on the interest that you make, you've got to pay tax, right? So you're paying 43 Rand taxes. That's 43%. That's 43% tax. And another thing that you have to do also, if you want to draw your money out your company, there is a 20% dividends tax. So in essence, you are paying 63 Rand taxes if you want to draw money out your company. So that means for every 100 Rand you earn, 63 Rand is going to the government. So you are left behind with a 37 Rand. You are left behind with a 37 Rand. And now, how much more money do you have to make in order to buy these groceries every month? Because for every 100 Rand, you're giving away 63 Rand tax, and now you've got 37 Rand left. That just means you actually, to make 100 Rand, you've got to make 300 Rand. You've got to make 300 Rand to accommodate for tax. And what's happening is you've got to beat inflation, because inflation keeps going up. Inflation keeps going up. So what is happening now? What is happening that people just do not understand? You don't have a choice. You can't sit back. You can't say, I'm not going to take action. You can't say, I'm going to see what's going to happen. The world is changing. Things are happening, and you've got to be in the game. If you're going to sit back, you will lose. Inflation will take you out. Taxes will take you out. Okay? You've got to understand those things are coming after all your money. That's why you've got to think big. That is why you gotta zero up your business all the time. You gotta zero up your life. What does zero up mean? When I say zero up, you got to add a zero to whatever you're earning right now. If you're earning 10,000 Rand, you got to add a zero to that. Okay, so that is 100,000 Rand. Because if you keep zeroing up, you beat all of this. You beat inflation, you beat that. If you think small, these people are going to take you out. Inflation is going to take you out. Taxes are going to take you out. The world is changing, and people are expecting someone else to look after them, and it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You got to look after yourself. You got to take action. Does this make sense? Okay, so just food for thought. Can't put money in a jar. You're losing. Inflation's killing you. Okay, and do you know the interest that you earn? You got to pay tax on it. You got to pay tax on it. There is an exemption, but you got to pay tax on it. You got to protect your assets, because when these things go wrong, if people didn't protect their assets, a lot of people lost their businesses, lost their jobs and all that, and they go and they lose their houses, they lose their cars, everything, because they didn't have a foundation. They didn't see how to protect their assets. They don't understand economies. They don't understand how taxes work, how government's money work. They don't understand that money is not real. They do not understand that money is not real. Okay? Good. I hope you learned something out of this video. Thank you very much, guys. This is John Eliades, your ultimate success strategist, and I will see you at the top. Cheers. Bye.